Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 392 of the Nope Coach podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Kohlberg. Today's topic is disappointment. I'm recording this on a Monday. Welcome to the Monday Motivator. Let's chat about disappointment. What a downer. Before I kick off today's episode, a couple of things. If you are listening to this as it goes live, so in either August or September of 2024, please vote for me in the Women in Podcasting Awards. I've been nominated in the coaching category. I'm super stoked to be shortlisted. I would love your vote. I'll put voting instructions in the episode description, whether you're tuning in on YouTube or audio. There will be a link there. I so appreciate that. And second thing, I'm going to start with a celebration on an episode on disappointment. The irony is not lost on me. Somebody sent me a message saying that they found my show in the last week, and it was kind of like when you find a TV series or a book series that has multiple seasons, you think you've hit jackpot. They're like 390 episodes. I'll be binging you for months. So messages like that, they mean the world to me. And I think sometimes, we do find a book, a podcast, a series, something, and we enjoy it, and we never think to pass along to the host, the person in it, how much we appreciate that. A little message like that can make someone's day, their week, their month, can be the difference between them hitting record that day or sitting at their desk to write another blog that day or just being like, ugh, what's the point? So if there is a show, a book, a series, a blog, a Substack, newsletter, you name it, if there's something that you enjoy consuming, whether it be reading, listening, whatsoever, why not this week send the person a message, even if it's just a sentence or two, thanking them or letting them know what are their most recent things, how much it resonated with you, because those little messages mean the world and they don't cost a thing, just a few moments of your time. So how I got on to today's topic, disappointment is one of the hardest emotions for me personally to feel. I, it's horrible. I abhor it. I avoid it. I ignore it. I will do something to, like, if I'm feeling disappointed, I'll go overeat because then I'll feel guilty from having overeaten, or I'll feel literally sick. So then I don't need to sit with the disappointment. And in this last week, I was chatting to a client about my experience of Disneyland. I went to Disneyland in California last month, and I was disappointed. It wasn't what I was expecting. And I don't know if it's because I'm 40 now and my dream for Disneyland was to go as a child. It's been on my bucket list for almost my entire life. It's been number two. Number one on my bucket list is Canada Alaska cruise. Number two was Disneyland. And yeah, I was disappointed. And I don't know, did I build it up too big in my head? Did I miss the window? Was I just tired? I have no idea. But I also went to Universal Studios and I loved it. Universal was absolutely positively incredible. I've been planning to do a video with it, but I haven't got around to yet. So those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see this. If you're listening to this on the audio, I don't know if the sound will come through, but come across to my YouTube. If you go to Google, type Suzanne Kohlberg YouTube, fortunate of having the unusual spelling, or there's a link in the show notes. But I got this for those of you watching on YouTube. Yes, it's Hedwig because they had Harry Potter. They had like Hogsmeade in Universal. And it's got this magnet that's so strong you can literally have it upside down and it sits on your shoulder. And you can turn it on and it's motion sensitive. So as you talk, its head moves, its wings flap, it cheeps. I don't know if it's coming through my mic. I guess I'll listen on the replay. But it's just like the most amazing thing. I was totally in love with this. And it's just agreeing with me because it's nodding. So anyway, I'll put it aside now. It will distract me for the rest of the episode. But this is the thing I bought for me for the holiday. Most things I bought were for my children, but I bought this for me. But anyway, I digress. So I was chatting to a client last week. I was saying I was disappointed with Disney. I was blown away by Universal. I didn't know a lot about Universal before I went. I'd heard of it, but at least in my frame of reference here in Australia, they don't talk about it as much. Disneyland is the thing. So she said, and I wrote it down. I said, can I do a podcast about this? And she said, please do. So the quote, because I typed it out word for word, if you never expect anything, you'll never be disappointed. So she was like, you weren't disappointed by Universal because you didn't know what to expect. But with Disney, you had such high expectations. That's why you were disappointed. And I was like, I wonder, that just has my world brain spinning. Like, I'm going to say it again. If you never expect anything, you'll never be disappointed. And I think I was almost raised that way, like not intentionally, but I remember so many times when I was younger, my parents saying, like, don't hope for too much, or you don't want to be disappointed. And my oldest child, Xanthi, she had a lot of struggle with sleep when she was a baby. And I remember the very first night she finally slept through. For those of you who are still in the midst of it with babies or young children who don't sleep, it gets better, but when you're in it, it feels like forever. I remember Gretchen Rubin said, "The days are long, but the days are long, but the years are short." Yes. And anyway, so I remember being so exhausted and ringing my mum and saying she finally slept through. And she was like, don't expect that every night. And whenever I achieved anything and I was really excited, oh, it'll be a one-off. Like you don't want to get disappointed. You don't want to set yourself up for failure. And I just think, what a glass half empty, pessimistic way to live. Like to expect a decent night's sleep, that's not asking for the earth. And to celebrate when you get that, like I think sometimes we don't allow ourselves to experience the good because we're afraid that it will go away. Brené Brown, she has a whole book on emotions. I think it's called Atlas of the Heart, but if you Google Brené Brown, you'll find it. Or no doubt, if someone's watching this and please pop it in the comments, Brené Brown's book. I always think to look later and I never remember. But she says something along the lines of, you can't selectively numb emotions. So if you numb the lows, you also numb the highs. So if you're like, I'm not allowing myself to feel disappointment, then you're also limiting how much you can feel joy or excitement or appreciation or all the positive feeling emotions as well. And emotions, none of them are good or bad. If you haven't yet watched Inside Out, and for those of you who have anxiety, or if you don't, to understand a loved one with anxiety, Inside Out 2, I actually preferred the sequel, which is very unusual. But it explains, it explores, it talks about all the different range of emotions. And when I think about emotions, the image that comes to mind for me is a diamond. A diamond has multi-facets. Some of the facets are bright and shiny and pretty and front facing, and some of the facets are dull or scratched or whatever. But the entirety of the diamond is made up by all of the facets. We, as a human, are made up of all of our emotions. And some of them we would like to have more of or enjoy experiencing. And some of them are gut wrenching. Some of them, like anguish and guilt and fear and disappointment. We don't really go around celebrating experiencing those. But without those, we don't get the diamond. We don't get to see all of it. So, anyway, all of this to say, have a think about what is something that you have experienced and you've been disappointed with. It could be finally getting to that bucket list location that you've seen on Instagram or Facebook or social media or magazines so many times and having it be overcrowded, over expensive, long lines, just not what you were expecting. Or even, something you've achieved. I was reading a article on a news site just over the weekend gone, and this person was talking about how university hadn't prepared them for their career. She was like, at university, I was really good at doing assignments. I was a straight A. I knew how to research. I could compare and contrast 18th century literature. And then I get a job in a PR firm and I'm having to schedule Outlook meetings and edit things that have press releases, and like university didn't prepare me for this. Like I really wish I hadn't gone at all and saved my money. So it could be a holiday, it could be a career, something that you've trained for. It's any number of things. Some things that are disappointed is not publicly acceptable to talk about because other people will judge us or guilt us or shame us or say that that's the thing that I always wanted for myself, and then you have it and you're not even happy. So you can't even share publicly what you're disappointed in. But nobody gets to tell you how to feel. I, I, my son yelled that at me the other day. Actually, he yelled it at my husband. He's like, "You can't tell me how I feel, Daddy." And it was like, that is so true. We can't tell anyone else how they feel. We might be easier for us if they felt differently, but how they feel is how they feel. So I imagine had I taken my children to Disneyland, I didn't go, I went with my sister. But if I'd spent all that money on airfares and accommodation and entry tickets and whatever, and they were like, "Oh, I hated Disneyland," I would be frustrated or annoyed. I was like, I spent all this money, you didn't even like it. But how often have you dreamed of something? I remember my daughter wanted to be a ballerina, and we started ballet classes. And oh, talk about disappointment. She hated it. I was like, honey, you can't start point on day one. Like first position, second position, all the, in her words, boring stuff is what creates the thing. But sometimes we're sold the ballerina, or right now she's getting into figure skating. And when you watch the movies or the Olympics or whatever, and you see the best of the best, yes, they get there, but they don't show the thousands of hours and practice and training that have gone into that. So, all this to say, what are your thoughts on disappointment? Like, how do you go with it? And do you subscribe to the if you never expect anything, you will never be disappointed? Because, yeah, that just feels like it doesn't feel like an inspired way to live. When I hug my son goodbye each morning when he goes to school, I know in the back of my mind that there'll be a day where he doesn't want to hug me anymore. He will be uncool or whatever the case may be. But does that mean I don't enjoy the hugs that I get now because one day I won't get them anymore? Or, when this morning I went to water aerobics, and as I was leaving the pool, the next pool along, so the complex that I go to, it's fabulous. It has a lot of pools lined up, was the little kids' classes and the mums with their toddlers. And I was like, oh, the nostalgia for when my kids were like that. Does that mean don't enjoy when your kids are at little classes because they'll grow up? Like, don't expect anything because if you don't expect it, you'll never be disappointed. And, is disappointment really the worst thing that we can feel? Because with any emotion, I've found when I allow myself to experience it, not numb it with food or shopping or raging or venting, not to shove it down, not to numb it, not to ignore it, but actually to feel it, it's like a wave. It comes and it goes. And then when it's retreated, there's space for the next feeling to come in. So it's okay to feel disappointed that the holiday wasn't what you'd hoped, that you don't have the pictures that you saw on Instagram, that you don't have the memories that you'd hoped for. You didn't, that the university didn't set you up for the job that you first wanted, or you started your blog and podcast and weren't an overnight success, or asked to be on Oprah or something like that, or you tried for the job and then you didn't make it, whatever it may be. It's okay to be disappointed, but you're going to let that disappointment count you out of the game, or are you going to be like, okay, attempt one? How different would we act if we were like, no matter what, I'm going to get this, I'm going to do this? Like, I didn't get back from my Disneyland thinking I'm never going to go on holiday again. I was like, perhaps I will be a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Where you look into it a bit more, like, or, you buy something and you have an experience that it's like what it looked like on the internet versus what it looked like when I got it. Discerning. That's the word I'm after. I'll be a little bit more discerning before I, book a hotel or before I buy an online course or so on and so forth. Because, at the moment, my goal is to grow my YouTube channel to 1,000 subscribers. That's been my goal for 2024, where at the time of recording this, over halfway through August, and I'm 570, I think, around about. I was like, that's a far cry short from 1,000. Technically, I could make 1,000 overnight. I could wake up tomorrow and have 1,000 subscribers. It could happen in an instant. But given it hasn't happened in the last 8 months, if I was going to use that trajectory, I'd be like, oh, this is a little disappointing. So does that mean, oh, well, scrub it out and I'm not supposed to do YouTube? Or is that going to be like, okay, the things that I have tried haven't yielded the results I wanted up until now. So what am I going to try next? How can I tweak this rather than just, throwing away the strategy entirely and seething with disappointment. Something to consider. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Speaking of YouTube, if you haven't yet subscribed, please do. If everybody who is currently subscribed invited a friend, if you enjoy this show and you know somebody who would benefit from it, if you invite one friend, if all of you did that, I would reach my 1,000 overnight. That would be absolutely positively incredible. And for the few of you who listen to this on audio, who have commented or sent me a message that said, you made a YouTube, like you signed up so that you could subscribe. There's been at least 4 of you, if not more. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. People don't know if you don't ask them. Sometimes we're disappointed in people's actions, but they didn't know that we're expecting something different. So what is it that you would like from someone? And can you ask them? And are you open to feeling the disappointment if they don't follow through? Like, of the 500 and something people on my channel currently, I don't expect all 500 to bring a friend, though if you did, I would be over the moon. But, to see the channel not grow as I had hoped, yeah, it's slightly disappointing, but I can handle that. And I know that it's coming. And when it gets there, oh, the celebration will be epic. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope to catch you on the next one. Bye for now.